Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed His grace on thee.
Here's to 150 years of the state we call home.
Good morning, crew. It is Thursday. It is February 26th. You are watching Peaks2Plains Weather, and I am Chief Meteorologist Matt Meister here on Mornings with Meister. Hope you are having a great day. I was so honored last night to be the MC of the annual CSPD Awards at Phil Long Music Hall on the north side of Colorado Springs. Of course, Chief Vasquez was there, Mayor Yummy was there, Sheriff Joe Roybal was there, lots of city council members were there, and I was so struck by how our men and women in blue and their support staff and volunteers work to serve our community. It was a very, very humbling experience last night. I was so honored to be asked and to do that. And so thank you for having me. You know, I love emceeing events and being out in the community. If you want to learn more about that, if you have a nonprofit event or something like that, you can go to peaks2plainsweather.com, and I do have a page on there about MC and hosting services that I can provide. So please feel free to check that out. I want to invite you today to join the show with me. This is the same thing every day. I know lots of you are like, I'm not going on there. I don't want to be on there. But some of you may have something to share. And so I always invite you to do that. You can write these down, and I encourage you to write these down, because on days when there's active weather, Peaks2Plains Weather's our weather together. You may be aware of something. If we're doing live coverage, you may see something that you can share with everybody. So just to give you those letters there at the end of the vmix.at, the top one is that's a J in between the capital S and the capital K. And then it's an L between the capital S and the 1 on the bottom ones. I wish there was a way for me to make like P2P, 1 and 2 or something like that. Maybe I'll reach out to vmix and see if I can do that. That would be something I think would be really, really cool. Some of you saying good morning early this morning. Angie Bennett is checking in saying good morning. Have a great day. Angie, have a great day. Brian is checking in and saying, come on, spring. I mean, it's felt like that the last few days with wind. February and March are some of our windier months in Colorado, at least along the Front Range here. That's certainly been the case the last few days. Teresa saying good morning from Weston. Good morning to you, Teresa. And Marty saying good morning as well. Asking about next week already, saying South I-25. I'm hopeful. And here's what I'm really hopeful about. I'm with Martin saying no wind, no wind, no wind. I'm with you. And I make a little bit of progress, I think, on that today. Not all of the progress, but some of it. So let's talk a little bit about our forecast here as we get our morning underway. I'm going to start off in the mountain areas where we have had some snow flying. This is a look this morning up at Copper Mountain here, and what a pretty shot that is, right? looks like a postcard there with a little hut, fresh snow, kind of looking back toward the mountains there early this morning. And you see I-70 there down at the bottom, kind of that big curve there. Keystone, we're up in the clouds, a little bit higher early this morning. We will see some sun come out during the day today. We've seen a few areas with some occasional kind of lighter side gusts up against the hills early this morning, kind of up on the Rampart Range. We've seen a few of those. The Air Force Academy, very comfortable this morning at 45 as a result. Pueblo on the other end of things, chillier, sitting at 28, but you get up against the hills and it is warmer like we saw in Colorado Springs and like we see in Trinidad, where it's 52 early this morning. So here's a look at the numbers across the area as we get the day underway, and there is quite a bit of variability out there. You see we've got 52 in Walsenburg as well, but upper 20s to around 30 on the river out across the plains. And then some of the mountain areas are actually a little bit warmer than what we've got over the plains, and that's due to some breezes that we have out there this morning as well. In fact, over the last 6 hours, if you check out the breezes here, you get the idea that they have been confined to some of those eastern slopes. So I'll run this through to right now. A lot of us over the plains have been, very, very light wind early this morning. Some of the mountain valleys have seen that as well, although some areas have seen a little bit of air movement. But today is going to be a better day in terms of the wind. I'll use Fort Carson as an example here. You see the wind speeds lighter on post than what we've had the last few days, especially on the east end. You get to the west end, you might have wind a little bit stronger than what I'm showing you here. And then Florence is an area where the wind will be a little bit stronger, kind of coming out of Bighorn Canyon here, Fremont County, I think through Canyon City, Penrose probably sort of matching what Florence is going to have here. So there are some areas that will have more in the way of wind today than others. But my headline for you is that it is not the last few days. And I think that is some really, really good news. Because, as Crystal says early this morning, Pueblo is so dry. Lots of areas are kind of dry out there, and we're sort of transitioning to some spring. Jennifer says she's got some garlic popping up. I was in my backyard yesterday afternoon when I was taking a little bit of a break, and I've got the beginnings of my daylilies are starting to come up here. I've seen the daffodils are starting to come up. So, it's I guess that time. Usually at my place where I am in the foothills, due to my elevation, it's a couple weeks later than what I'm getting now. But, I mean, it is what it is, right? And I do have some changes in the extended forecast. We'll do that here in a second, but I am going to start off with today, and I'm going to head over to the weather wall to do that because I have a couple things that I want to point out here. So we do have red flag warnings that are up today, and you can see that here in the shading across Fremont County, El Paso County, Pueblo County, Eastern Huerfano County, Western Los Animas County. Now remember that my friends at the Weather Service who issue these things, they're looking at real specific criteria. And there's a length of time component, 3 hours or more of 25 mile per hour wind or more, and humidity levels of 15% or lower. So that doesn't mean that the fire danger today is at the same level of concern as the last few days. We certainly have it, which is why the red flag warning has been issued. In fact, I'll kind of walk you through the day here today. A couple things I'll point out. Notice that the wind spreads eastward. We do have some real strong areas up in the mountains, kind of just downstream of the Continental Divide. But along the Front Range here, it's not the last few days. Out across the plains, we get breezy, but I mean, we get a good one today. So just something to kind of be positive about and look forward to. Some of the snow that's still lingering over the mountains early this morning will be on the decrease. Like I said, we'll have some occasional passing clouds across lower elevations. But all in all, compared to the last few days, except for those few mountain areas where we're going to have some gusts that are on the stronger side of things, I think it's a better day to be outside. I mean, temperatures are mainly in the 50s for the mountain valleys. Alamosa might hit 60. Bases of the ski resorts may be a little bit warmer than we'd like in terms of snow conditions, but across the plains, 60s for the Springs, around 70 in Pueblo. 70 is tougher to come by than the last few days behind a cold front that came through. So you put all of that together, and again, some of this is relative. My easy to understand 0 to 10 scale of if it's going to be nice or not. Banjo's excited out there today, and he's going with an 8. because it is better than the last few days, like I said. So he's going to get a long walk today, no doubt about that. Low temperature forecast overnight tonight, coldest in the big mountain valleys, 20s and 30s tomorrow. So it will be a little bit cooler than some of the 50s that we have against the hills early this morning. Start to see the 70s show back up tomorrow. Mountain areas really not changed all that much. Some downslope wind early in the morning, kind of continuing from what happens overnight. And then tomorrow's kind of a similar day. We hit the late morning and afternoon here, and you see that the breezes pick up for sure. We get some occasional gusts here and there, but these numbers, except for some of the mountain areas, are not what they were earlier in the week. And so I think, again, that is some good news. So we're making some progress here, trying to be positive, trying to get things sort of going in the right direction out there for the next couple of days. Okay. Let's see. Janine says, should we do a rain dance? I'm all down for that. And I do have a chance of some moisture in the extended forecast because, like Donna Frost says, we do need the moisture. No doubt about that. Crystal's like, hey, come on, moisture. Give it to me. Yes, I'm with you. I'm with you. Speaking of moisture, we had a little bit yesterday. I am going to share with you now a interview that I did. I wanted to check on what the terrain, the new terrain that was open at Monarch Mountain, how that has been sort of skiing and performing. You know that we've been talking about snowpack being down a little bit this year. I had a chance to talk to their GM yesterday. Check it out. All right, my friends, a good treat today. We head up to Monarch Mountain where we are joined by their general manager here today. Chris Haggerty is in his office. And Chris, it's snowing outside today in Monarch, which I know is always good news.
You better believe it. It is always welcomed, and this year certainly adds a little touch to an added level of excitement for snow.
Yeah, let's talk about some new terrain that you guys have. You opened it up, I don't know what it was, maybe a month ago now, maybe not that yet, but I'm talking about No Name Basin, and it's on the other side of the Continental Divide from the rest of Monarch. Tell me about it.
Yeah, we're just closing in on a month of that terrain being open. Like you mentioned, top of the Continental Divide. We're now skiing both sides, so that's where the oceans begin, right? The Atlantic and Pacific. So to be able to ski and ride on both sides, really unique, really cool experience. We added about 50% increase in terrain back there. It's There's intermediate trails, there's advanced trails, there's tree skiing, there's some hike to terrain. It's got some amazing views out off the western slope. It's really an incredible piece of terrain for us.
And it's been a long time coming. Tell me about how that journey works, because it's a process to open up new terrain.
Yeah, back in the early 2000s was like the first moment that one of our previous GMs kind of had the vision of, hey, we should expand back here at some point. And fast forward a little bit, in 2011, we submitted it in our master development plan to the U.S. Forest Service. At that point, they accepted the thought of the expansion, and then the real work begins with specialists and studies being done. Wetlands, wildlife, you name it, all sorts of natural resources, making sure that we're being good stewards of the land, expanding really in a sustainable, mindful way, and protecting that natural feel.
Right.
So, basically from 2011 up until summer of 2024, it's a lot of administrative stuff. And then the final two summers, the 2024 summer and then this past summer, is where it was like the boots on the ground, cutting in the trails, installing the lift, and really kind of the stuff that the public sees. So 25-year process to make this happen, and just couldn't be happier to see it all come together.
Yeah, it's awesome. Do you notice a difference in the snow at all? I mean, the whole mountain's kind of right up there on the Continental Divide, but is there any difference between one side and the other?
It really depends on the wind, right? And the wind direction and how it fills in.
Sure.
We're really happy that No Name opened this year, but I'll also say it hasn't been the best or most favorable winds this year to load
Right.
that side, particularly on the trails. The trees are filling in great, because they act as windbreaks and they hold the snow in
Right.
there. So it kind of just is, if we get an upslope storm and the wind direction is favorable for No Name, it's going to fill in there. We just haven't seen one of those storms yet this year. So I do say if you're going to go back there, the trees are the move this year.
Where to go. Awesome. Tell me a little bit about Monarch for those that might not be familiar yet, because you are different than a lot of the ski areas in Colorado, particularly when it comes to snow.
Absolutely. We are 100% all natural. We're very proud of that. Not having any man-made snowmaking systems, relying totally on natural snow, it creates just a different product. It's a lower moisture content product. It stays powdery and fluffier longer than if you mixed in some man-made snow. So we love that. And one of the reasons why we're able to do that is because of our location on the Continental Divide, but it's also because our base elevation is around 10,800 feet at our base. So we get snow up here, and when we do get it, we hold it because the temperatures usually remain cooler than some of the ski resorts that have lower base elevations.
If someone wants to check out the map of No Name Basin, maybe make some plans to head up there, look at lift tickets and all of that, how can they do so? What's the best way?
Yeah, to get all the information, you're going to want to head over to skimonarch.com. That's going to give you everything you need to know, from parking all the way to getting on the mountain. If you need lessons, rentals, you name it, what trails you want to tackle first, that information's all there. There's also our reservations phone number in there if you do want to talk to someone and just get a little bit more of a personalized experience, help cater to what your true needs are. So that's your best start.
Awesome. And that's one of the things that I think is great about Monarch is you do get this level of care due to the size that sometimes you don't get at some of the bigger places. It's one of my favorite places to go. Congrats on the new terrain. Congrats on a successful season. It is snowing outside. We've been showing the live cam there as we've been taping this interview. Chris, thanks for spending some time with me today here on Peaks2Plains Weather. I appreciate it.
Thanks a lot. Keep doing those snow dances and send it our way.
Will do. Thank you, sir. So, such a good guy. Everybody at Monarch, I think, is fantastic. I kind of like the smaller, almost more intimate kind of feel. Emily agrees with that while that was running. She says Monarch's our favorite. It's super kid-friendly. Patricia says worked at Monarch Lodge Coffee Shop in the 80s, had a blast. Great development. Really fun to be on the other side of the Continental Divide, I think. And you heard him say, a huge increase in terrain for them. So that's really, really good news. I want to share a picture with you that I got from a buddy of mine. He doesn't live very far away from me, but here's kind of how the day started. Now, Shondor has an amazing spot on the earth. You can see here. That is a great look at Pikes Peak with a couple clouds overhead early this morning. And a really, really good start to the day. So I hope you had a chance to see the sunrise. If you ever see pictures of clouds, some active weather, anything, you can send those to me in the Send to Matt feature in the bottom right-hand corner of the Peaks2Plains Weather app. And I can get that. I can show it on the air. And really, really good stuff. Here's a question from Mike. So he said, what about the pattern change that I talked about 2 weeks ago? We've had nothing. And there were two kind of longer term outlooks that I have done over maybe the last 5 weeks. And one of them, so I'm not sure which one you're talking about, Mike, but one of them was actually for what we had last week when we had those multiple systems moving through. and we had all of that snow in the mountains. And so that was the pattern change, that at least there were systems moving through. I know locally, we had a couple spits here and there, a couple flurries here and there. Some places got some snow last Friday. So that's probably the one you were talking about. But I also did one where I was looking into the middle part of March. And I did this last week. I think early last week I did that one. So I don't remember. I'm not sure which one you were talking about, but I wanted to address those for you. So that first one worked out, just might not have had anything at your house. But there were 3 separate systems that moved through last week, and the snowpack came up in the mountains, in some cases, 10% or so, even 15% in a couple of the bases. So that was good news, or basins. That was good news. And I do have a pattern change on the way here as we head into next week. So let's talk about that extended forecast right now, because there is going to be a chance of some moisture around here. Now, it's maybe not a great chance, but it's a chance nonetheless, and we'll take it here. So here's a look at Monarch, or Arapahoe Basin, overnight. And you can see that the snow has still been flying there up across the Continental Divide on the other side of Loveland Pass. And as the sun comes up here, you see kind of a real pretty shot to the day. This is about done. Here we go, 4:30 here. Nice to see that snow. It's like warp speed, right? That's kind of cool, sort of fun to see. But it has been windy up there still. And you can see that. I mean, they'll take that, right? Like not a fun chairlift to maybe sit on, but good news nonetheless. So Breck, we've got a couple chances of snow here in the forecast. One coming maybe on Sunday, and then I think a little bit better one maybe Monday night into Tuesday. And that kind of leads me into our extended forecast. So there are a couple things I want you to watch here as we move through the weekend into early next week. The first of which will be up across the northern plains. You'll see as we head into late Saturday, kind of an area of some orange, some darker oranges. That's a jet streak and a little wave in the northwest flow that will send a cold front in here. The other thing to watch is that system out in the Pacific Ocean, because that thing starts kind of moving toward the western U.S. and is undercutting a big ridge of high pressure that heads up toward, off the coast of Canada. And so here's Saturday, 4 o'clock, and you see that little wave I was talking about up across the Dakotas in Minnesota. I know that's far away, but that is strong enough that that's going to send a cold front into eastern Colorado on Sunday. And then we have to figure out what happens with this area of low pressure coming in from the west here, because there's not a lot to steer it. Because again, the jet stream's way up to the north in Canada here. So with that system, you get some different kind of versions from different computer models about how quick this thing moves east and how far north or south it is as it kind of comes into the western U.S. So there is some uncertainty in the forecast early next week because of that. But this computer model, and it's the one that I usually lean to when we're talking days kind of 5 through 10 of the extended forecast, most of the time it does better for what's happening here in the western U.S. and specifically in the lee of the Rockies in Colorado. Kind of brings it across the area on Tuesday. And I've sort of been reflecting that. You see there is a system kind of coming off of the coast of California and Oregon. That's kind of helping to move that thing at some point next week. So that's those two things I've been talking about in the extended forecast. If you've been watching my videos on those the last few days, and I have that detail about the uncertainty in the extended forecast in the days ahead of the Peaks2Plains Weather app. But you can see here Saturday night, we get that cooler air kind of coming in from the east here and backing up against the Rocky Mountains. Now, the computer models try to bump it east a little bit on Sunday, but with that system coming in from the west, doesn't always work out that way. I've warmed up Sunday a little bit, but I still have a touch of work to do on the extended forecast. So we're going to trend cooler for sure. And then as that system comes in from the west, we'll start to get some moisture chances. And so again, like the specifics of this, don't get hung up on it yet. This is not one of those big storms where I'm like, hey, I'm certain on the timing, maybe just moving it 6 hours or so. This is a little bit different than that. Because, things might end up a little farther north or south, might end up 24 hours different than what we're showing here. But we do start to get some moisture chances at some point into next week, and kind of watching sort of Monday night into Tuesday, maybe Tuesday night into Wednesday, somewhere in there. So you see that in the extended part of the forecast there. So if you have any questions about that, I'm happy to answer those now. You can come on live with me if you want to talk about that. You can put these into your browser on your desktop computer or your cell phone, and it sort of works like Zoom does, like FaceTime does. You know, I mean, they're video calls. Everybody is real familiar with that nowadays. But, you know, kind of nice to have a change in the extended forecast here. So Karen says that, morning, Matt, what a crazy few days in Pueblo West, 81, then wind, then 70s, and even more wind. Yeah, that's why, Karen, I'm excited about today and tomorrow not being the last couple of days. I think that's really, really important to note for most of us, and some good news. Sally says, good morning, and thank you for everything. Good morning, Sally. And yeah, it is one of my favorite things that I get to do here is to go into the detail that I get to do and to answer your questions. So real quick, let's go back over today. Some of you I know have been coming in here since we've started. Other folks have been dropping out, have to get to work and whatnot. I'll kind of wrap up with today one more time, and then we'll get you on the way out of here. So we do have red flag warnings in effect today. Fremont County, up and down the interstate here. Again, remember, red flag warnings, 3 hours of 25 mile per hour wind or more and humidity 15% or lower. But check this out. This is not the last couple of days. Some of the mountain areas are going to get some wind, don't get me wrong, just downstream of the Continental Divide on the eastern slopes. But along the Front Range, you don't see 50s showing up like we've had the last few days. Tomorrow's real similar. So I think it's going to be a better feel out there today. And Banjo is excited about that. On Banjo's barometer, he's going with an 8 today, partly for relative reasons compared to the last couple of days. And I think relativity, when you're talking about how things feel, are certainly better. A good way to kind of do things and compare things. Then as we get into the weekend, we get some lighter wind Saturday into Sunday. We start to cool things back with the arrival of that cold front. Sunday, some of us may drop in the afternoon after hitting highs in the middle part of the day. We have that chance of some moisture at some point into early next week before we get quiet again. And then behind that, maybe getting a little bit more active for the middle part of March. So there's at least a chance there's some cooler air here. Some of the best news I have next week. I don't think we're going to get the wind that we've had this week with that system coming in from the west, since it's cut off from the jet stream flow, and we're not going to have the main jet in the area. Wind should be better. So check this out. Signs of spring across the area. Chris says on Nob Hill, my tulips are almost all the way up. Yeah, I mean, springtime in the Rockies, right? You know we're going to get something at some point. So let's hope that those flowers can deal with that. My friends, it's about 7 o'clock. It's crazy how easy a half hour goes by when I'm talking about weather. I love using that. Forecast tonight for Jeremy. He says observatory night in Pueblo. Yeah, Jeremy, I think you're going to have a good night for that, because the wind will pull back tonight, and I think we're going to have a clear sky. So, my friends, thanks for joining me today. Have a great day. You're watching Peaks2Plains Weather. Download the Peaks2Plains Weather app. You can get the forecast, my forecast for where you are 24 hours a day, anytime you want it. I will again ask, please share that with your friends. That would mean a lot to me. Help them download it. If someone's technologically challenged, help them download it. When the weather's active, that's the best way that I can take care of everybody. So I hope you have a fantastic Thursday. I've enjoyed being with you. Thanks for starting your day with me. I'll see you tomorrow morning on Mornings with Meister.